Our first scripture lesson is from the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 14 through 21, and verses 26, found on page 1786 of your Pew Bible. Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but of many. The foot would say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body. That would not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear would say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, what would the hearing be? If the whole body were hearing, what would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God arranged the members of the body, each one of them, as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many members, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you. Nor again, the head to the feet, I have no need of you. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Please remain seated and join in singing our sung prayer for illumination. Verse 1. Listen now for the gospel. Number 500. No, number 5. The words are in your bulletin. Well, that's what it says.
The gospel, hallelujah. It is God's word that changes us, hallelujah. Listen now for the gospel, hallelujah. It is God's word that changes us, hallelujah. The Holy Spirit melt and break our hearts of stone until we give our life to God and God alone. The Holy Spirit melt and break our hearts of stone until we give our life to God and God alone. Listen now for the gospel, hallelujah. It is God's word that changes us, hallelujah. Listen now for the gospel, hallelujah. It is God's word that changes us, hallelujah.
Over here. Come on. All the cool kids are over here.
Yeah, come on.
All the cool kids. The second reading this morning comes from the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verses 16 through 21. It's on page 1799 in your Pew Bible. From now on, therefore, we regard no one from a human point of view. Even though we once knew Christ from a human point of view, we know him no longer in this way. So if anyone is in Christ, there is a new creation. Everything old has passed away. See, everything has become new. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Christ, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting the message of reconciliation to us. So we are ambassadors for Christ. Since God is making his appeal through us, we entreat you on behalf of Christ to be reconciled to God. For our sake, he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. This is the word of God.
Thanks be to God.
So earlier this week, Lisa and I received a wonderful gift, which was the opportunity to attend an anti-racism training with a group called Crossroads that does a lot of work with faith-based groups and with institutions. And I was just thinking a lot about this period of time we're in right now, Epiphany, right? It's still the season of Epiphany until we get to Lent. That's why we have the little star on our parament still. And that's why we have our star up back there. We didn't forget to take the Christmas decoration down. We have it up on purpose because we're in this season that's about light and that's about seeing. And I think a lot of times the things that mess us up when we try to be a community together are that we don't always see. Sometimes we don't want to see. It's uncomfortable. It makes us uncomfortable. Seeing all the news coming out of everywhere, it's hard to take it in, right? It can be emotional. Sometimes, though, we just don't know where to look. Sometimes we haven't learned that we need to see. So we worked earlier this week with the scriptures from Corinthians, the 2 letters from Corinthians. And the first, this idea of the body, right? That if one part suffers, we all suffer. But I think we've kind of tried to pretend that doesn't really work that way, right? Our country is more divided than it has been in a long time, if ever. And we don't feel like we're part of the same thing. But we have been given a ministry of reconciliation. Isn't that's like a pretty good calling, right? A pretty nice, clear sense of what our job is, especially in a time like this. So, as we gather for the rest of Epiphany, as we move into Lent, doing this series on race and reconciliation, how do we see it as part of our calling in this season of Epiphany, our calling to see, and beyond that time, our calling to be ministers of reconciliation? I'm going to invite Lisa up to tell you a little bit about what we learned. And I'm going to also give you this microphone. Just so that it's on the video.
All right, so what we learned? Oh, I don't really know. That was a big question. So I wrote a lot of words down, and we'll see if I stick to them. So it was a workshop Monday afternoon into Tuesday afternoon on race and racism. It was an opportunity for us to come together in a courageous space to share our experiences, questions, and learn all the while being respectful. And it was put on by the Presbytery of Boston as well as the Presbytery of Northern New England. So we had about 30 or so people from all over, and it was really, really awesome. And I was grateful that when we got there that this wasn't just a bunch of white people sitting around trying to talk about this. But rather it was a nice mix of ethnicities and different cultures, and all of us coming together to try to understand what it is that we mean by race and racism, and how does that impact us in our churches. So that's a lot to learn in 24 hours. So what I learned that this issue of race goes back much further in history than I was even aware of or remember. You know, we hear in history, and even, Daniel is learning about slavery and what's been happening there, and the segregation of America and then the desegregation. He's actually doing a book report on Marshall Thurgood, our first African-American. Thurgood Marshall, sorry. I'm glad you are here to correct me. Thurgood Marshall. One of the Supreme Court justices. So it's really important to be aware of. But even though I've looked at the history and remember, and I like history, I didn't realize how much the system, our government, and the institutions have played a part in keeping certain ethnic groups and people oppressed. One of the things that struck me from our presenter, Jessica, who's wicked smart and reads a lot of books, and she just whips them off like that, and she was reminding us or telling us that back when slavery was common, that if you were a white man and you owned slaves as your property, and if you felt that they were more than just property, you thought that they were actually people, and you wanted to educate them, that wasn't really allowed. There were rules. The government had rules about that, and you couldn't educate them without facing punishment, fines, without potentially having your property taken away from you. And so the system was keeping it down, even though there were people who didn't necessarily buy into that. And so that really stuck with me when she brought that up, that how ingrained this system is. And we've been making progress with people's attitudes and beliefs, and I think we've come a long way, but we're hitting a roadblock, because while lots of people look at other ethnic groups and look at other people and believe that they are people who are worthy and have value, our institutions are not quite there yet. So I think that's going to be our next challenge. So here in this church, Clinton Presbyterian, we've purposely chosen not to just be inclusive, but to be multicultural. And one of the last exercises we did was to look at our church and put ourselves into this scale. And I was proud to be able to look at these identifying markers and say, yeah, we're doing it. We're like a 3, maybe even a 4 out of this scale of 6. And mind you, 6 is like impossible to get to. So really it's like a scale of 5.
Why is 6 impossible? What is 6?
Well, 6
Like
is,
Jesus is here. And
well, you have to have vision. So you're always going to be striving for something.
Vision.
So you can never get to 6. It's always just out of reach.
There's always one more thing.
Right, exactly. We're never going to say, oh, it's a perfect system and we're just going to stop. Right? We always have to keep
Always
moving
questioning and
forward.
asking what's next.
Right.
All right.
And I think, did you?
Yeah.
Pastor Meagan made copies of the scale, and I didn't want you to look at them in advance, but you can get them afterwards so that you can see those different markers. Because I think it's important for us to all look at that and to recognize what we've done. And that's what I wanted to start with, is to celebrate the fact that we are doing it right, according to the scale. And I think according to a lot of other things, this is the scale that we use. We are doing lots of really awesome things to not just be inclusive or patronizing and say, oh yeah, we've got people of color, or we have other ethnic groups. No, but we've truly embraced that. We have changed our service to include Cameroonian traditions and other people's traditions. And so I actually encourage you, if there's something missing in the service from your childhood, or something that you used to do that you really love, to just make it known. Because lots of things can be changed or tweaked, and that makes this more inclusive for everybody. I can remember saying, probably early on when I joined the session as an elder, I said, I really miss having communion once a month. So if you don't like communion, it's my fault. And they said, okay, we can do that. That's not so hard. And that makes me really happy to have communion once a month. So if there's something that's missing from something that you used to do that you would love to see, bring it up. Oh, and then also to talk about how we continue to be inclusive and how, I don't know, I live in a bubble apparently. Kind of naive. No bubble? Well, sometimes it seems a little bit like a bubble. And a few years ago, I helped to draft our mission statement. And when I was drafting the mission statement, I pretty much looked around the congregation and I said, who is already here? And I just listed that. And apparently that was like a really big deal. I had no idea. But the mission of Clinton Presbyterian Church is to reflect the love of Jesus Christ in our church, community, and the world. We do this by welcoming all who want to worship and learn about the love of God. We welcome people of all ages, sizes, race, orientation, gender, ethnicity, and financial status. Come, let's journey together as we live out our mission to reflect, grow, and serve. And I just said, this is who's here. These are the people in our congregation. These are our brothers and sisters, and we're happy to welcome them. And realize it was a big deal until we were embarking on the journey to find Pastor Meagan. And Bob and I, being on the personnel committee, we had a breakfast meeting with Pastor Eric from the Native Church. And we were talking about potential candidates, who might be someone good to come and try it out, and we would look at different names of people, and Pastor Eric kept saying, no, that person can't handle your church. That person's not ready. They're not ready for that kind of multicultural church. And that was really surprising to me, and I was kind of like, I had no idea that this was such a big deal. So we should congratulate ourselves, because we are a big deal. We are a big deal. But we need to keep going, as I mentioned before. We need to continue to have vision. We need to continue to make strides to make this congregation a sanctuary for all who choose to enter. And we need to start working on changing the system within the church body. And so the next level up is the Presbytery of Boston. So all of the churches in this area in Massachusetts, are part of the Presbytery of Boston, and they meet. And we need to make that governing body who produces rules and guidance and things for our church and the other churches to follow. We need to make sure that everyone has equal voice there, and it's not just a bunch of white guys. Okay? We want to be all inclusive. We want to take what we have at this church and continue to spread that out like roots from a plant. That we are just going to continue to grow and spread and change the system little by little. And we can change it at the Presbytery level, and we can help to change Northern New England by example, and then bring it to the next level, which is the Synod of the Northeast. So that covers a big territory. I don't know all the exact territories. And then there's the big General Assembly that covers all of America. Maybe more. All of the America. Right. And so we want to make sure that this institution begins to change. And that change will start here with us. And we've already started. We are well on our way into making some of those big changes. So that's a little of what I learned in 24 hours.